Hey everybody, Dimitri here, and today I will show you how to take apart and clean one of these Ryobi EZClean triple nozzles. There are some issues with this turbo nozzle right here, which gets a bunch of dirt in there and stops working properly. And you can buy replacements of these for about 20 bucks, but it's actually super easy to take them apart and clean them, so hopefully this will save you a trip to the hardware store. So the first thing we'll want to do is grab a screwdriver or something pokey, and then you can take these two pieces apart by simply pushing out these metal clips. And you go, they're kind of L-shaped. Once you take them out, you'll see it. So you just poke right into here, and it should start to move right away. So there's one. And then on the other side, other one. And once it pops out, you just take it out. So once that's done, you can separate these two bits and be super careful. Cover this part with your hand because there is a spring-loaded little ball bearing there, and you don't want it shooting out across the room. Otherwise, you're gonna have to buy another one of these. So, there's the little ball that just fell out. And there's the spring. So chances are when you take this apart, this is just gonna fall out. So this little ball sits on top of the spring that goes into the hole right here. So let's go ahead and take that, dump that out, and move on to the next step, to this disassembly here. So you already have a bunch of dirt here, so you can start cleaning at this point. All right, so next up, this round piece here actually comes out. This is a separate piece from this big housing here, and that's kind of how you take it apart. So these two nozzles are pretty much fixed. But this one, it looks like it's got a way to thread in here, but really it just pushes in there. It's just a pressure fit with an O-ring. So we just push on that, it pops right in there, and that gives you the ability, you can use a pick or really anything long, like a long thin screwdriver, something that will fit into this hole, and you just push in and just kind of be careful, take your time, and this piece will just come popping right out. And then once you have this taken out, so this is what this piece looks like. So there's some O-rings here, make sure they're seated before you take it or before you put it all together. And then this is what this piece looks like. So the turbo nozzle is underneath this little cap right here. So you will probably need either a pick or a screwdriver or something to kind of, this is just a pressure fit. There's an O-ring that kind of holds this in place. So you will want to just very carefully, try not to damage it in some way. Just pry it up, and it will take a little bit of effort, but just take your time. And there we go. So pry this up, and then this is the actual little turbo nozzle piece that gives a lot of trouble. And I've just taken this apart, so I already cleaned it, but you'll see that there's probably a bunch of dirt in here, so just make sure to clean this piece right here really well, and then clean this piece and clean the inside of this. There's right where the nozzle is, like you can see the light coming through this hole that I'm pointing at, there's usually a bunch of dirt, so on the other side of this. So you can stick a paper towel in there or do something like that, and that works really well. So once you get it all cleaned up, you put it all back together. I want to stick this back in there. You want to make sure you don't forget to stick this nozzle back in. It will fall out when you take everything apart. So you just stick it back in there, drop it in, push it in with a screwdriver or something like that. Make sure it's seated all the way. So you want to twist it on the other side, make sure it's seated. Put some light pressure on the sides of it just to seat it. Then I want to install this little cap. I don't think it goes in any special way. There's the other thing that you'll actually want to make sure you do is there's little holes in this cap, which is how the water gets in there. Make sure those are clear. So you'll want to grab a sewing needle or something really, really thin, or a piece of wire, and just poke it through these little holes and make sure that that is clean. So we'll want to install that back in here. And this cap, you will see that there's 3 holes, and one of them is obviously different. So this nozzle goes into the turbo little hat. So just kind of want to line it up more or less decently. And I used a bunch of petroleum jelly when putting this all together, just so the O-rings seat well. You don't really want to grease it up too much, because you don't want a bunch of sticky grease in there to attract all the dirt that gets in there. So you want to kind of line it up, and then you'll need to push it down with some light pressure, and just make sure it's seated all the way. And this is probably the only tricky part, again, dealing with this little ball. So we will put it into this little hole here. It sits on top of this spring, and then you want to line it up. It doesn't really matter too much how you line it up, but you just don't want it lining up with any of these holes, because then it's going to get stuck. So you want somewhere between the little holes. And you can put a little bit of grease on there too, or a little bit of petroleum jelly or something, like, not too obtrusive, but just to let it move around a little bit easier. So we'll do this here. And this is, like I said, this is probably the only tricky part of this. So you just want to put some pressure on it, slide it right in there. There we go. And then you can also just make sure this moves around and clicks properly and everything before you put these things back in. So you'll want to line these up and push them back in. So there's one. Once one of them is in, it's not going anywhere. Second one is in, and it's all done, ready to go. Test it, make sure it works, and go spend 20 bucks on something else. Hope you guys found this video useful. Leave a comment if you guys have any questions or suggestions, and see you out on the trail.